What's good, everybody? RJ Sheldon here, back with another episode of Off the Top Show, edition of Spartan Dogs, not Spartan Dogs. Jesus, today is the day for me to
Don't
just
throw a
mess that up,
curveball
huh?
at me. That I was like, wait a minute,
Never
we're doing
mind.
that.
This
All right,
is this
this is
is
gonna be
the
a
great
short episode.
episode of the BD Boys here, as you see on the screen here. Got my good brother James Muenchow, aka
Yes,
Jimmer. How
sir.
we doing, man?
It is colder than hell outside. Holy buckets! Oh my
Jesus.
god! Like, yeah. I had to pull out the extra winter coat today and yesterday. So it's been cold out, man. So, but we're here. Hopefully, it warms up to the point where if I walk outside and I have like the wet hair from shower or something, it doesn't freeze and it breaks off. Let's just hope it warms up a little bit because god damn is it cold.
No, it definitely is. Well, let's just go ahead and hop right into it here. Obviously, we all know our good Green Bay Packers. The season is done, but there is a lot of opportunity this offseason to go ahead and get back to where we were to get over the hump. I obviously want to get your input on kind of what you're thinking that will make you like, damn, like this is it. This is where we can go ahead and chase championships for the next 1 to 2 years. So talk to me a little bit about what you've been hearing and what your speculations are when it comes to the Green Bay Packers this offseason and moving into this new season.
Um, so right now, from what I've been reading, you and I both talked about Matt LaFleur's ending press conference. But then the next day after we recorded, Brian Gutekunst had his press conference.
Yep.
He sounds like they're going to have, I think the official number that came out, they're going to have about $32 million in cap available, which leaves you a pretty good chunk of change to go either trade for somebody, sign somebody. It sounded like Brian Gutekunst is basically like, if there's somebody out there we want, we'll try and go get them in free agency. Maybe not so much the trades because again, Green Bay doesn't really like to trade. They more so like to just keep all their picks in house. They're the ones who like to trade people away to get more picks.
Right.
But if you look at the landscape, what are their needs? 4 positions of need are going to be corner with the Jair Alexander situation and the depth of corner that you have because there's going to be guys leaving that corner spot, which is, in my opinion, some are dead weight. The others are – it's going to be interesting with the corner. We'll break that down. Wide receiver, edge rusher, and offensive line. Those are my positions of need because, again, you look at middle linebacker, that position was pretty solidified at the end of the season. Safety, it looks pretty good. Obviously, quarterback, tight end, and running back are pretty solidified as well. So cornerback is going to be one of the more interesting ones because you have a guy who's an all-pro. We know what he's about. Jair Alexander, he's one of the best corners in the league, who's unhappy. Now, in my humble opinion, if he was playing every game, or maybe even like 75% of the games, it's the NFL, you're not going to – people who play every game are a dime a dozen because it's just a rough league, man. Sometimes you get some knocks, can't go. Problem is Jair has played half of his games past 2 seasons, so maybe they're going to look to move on because paying him 20-something million a year to play 8 games a season is just not in the cards. Or they're going to say they're going to restructure him, but he doesn't sound very happy right now. Wonder if because they're so slim at corner, I mean, Corey Ballantyne, not Carrington Valentine, Ballantyne. Corey Ballantyne is going to be probably, I wouldn't be surprised if they sign him cheap because he's just cheap. He's been there. He knows the system.
Right.
You might get him on a couple $1 million, which, hey, you need depth players too. Keyshawn Nixon's on the mend. I don't know if he's signed through next year or if he's going to be a free agent. He thinks he's cornerback, like he's potentially be a cornerback 1. I disagree wholeheartedly. Brother, you are not cornerback 1. He did find his niche, as we talked about last week, being an outside corner, so he has some value. He's not slot with Javon Bullard coming in and proving that he can play slot. Probably going to be an outside corner. I'd be okay with it. I'd be okay with him being cornerback too, as long as he stays on the outside. And I guess with injuries, because yes, injuries happen. If you have to bump him inside, he can do it. I don't like when he does it, but at least you know you have some versatility there. I probably would like to think Keyshawn Nixon is going to be back, as much as I don't think he will if he's signed. Look that up for me right now. See if he's signed through next
Nixon?
year. I knew he had a 3-year deal. I just
think
don't know when it. I just don't know when. 3-year, 21 million, $7 million a year.
Yep, he's good through 2016. So he's a free agent in 2027.
26. Okay, so he'll be back. We don't need to worry about Keyshawn. He'll probably be back. It's just the kick returning thing. So cornerback room is going to be interesting. Do you try to talk Jair Alexander into maybe a restructure to maybe push back some money, void years, or do you just try to trade him? Which I think there is teams out there who could value, who have some cap space and looking for a lockdown corner in their defenses could use some value. I don't know. I think at this rate, Jair Alexander's a Ferrari, but the Ferrari's gotten some miles on it. It's starting to be in the shop more than on the road. I think it's going to be a tough decision. I think from the way it sounds, I think his time's up. I mean, with the whole thing that happened 2 years ago with him in Carolina, and now this, where he's not talking to media because he didn't have anything nice to say, I think he just cut ties. I mean, they did this with Zadarius Smith, which, my God, that's a lot. I mean, Jair Alexander's nowhere near Zadarius Smith. I'm not comparing him. That man's absolute cancer. I don't know why teams keep signing him. He's
going to the Bears, brother. It's his next stop.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Might just complete the circle of life. But I think they're going to cut ties. They don't want to cut him. They cut him because that means they have to pay him X amount of money in dead cap. But right. Again, I'm not a capologist. Go look at Ken Ingalls. He does great work. I think the number, if they cut him pre-June 1st, is like $7 million, almost $7 million.
Mm-hmm.
And then they pay $10 million. I think that's pre-June 1. And then post-June or pre-June 1 might be like 18. I don't know. I saw a bunch of different numbers. Ken speaks a language which I just don't understand because he's such a whiz on it. So they're going to save some type of money cutting him. It's just not going to be like a ton. It's not going to be like, he's a $20 million player. If you cut, no, he's got guaranteed money. You got to pay some dead cap. I think they restructured him once when Aaron Rodgers may have been in town. I'm not sure. But I think they're going to try to trade him. Even if they do trade him, I think he's still going to carry a dead cap. But at least then you're going to get something back for it. So cornerbacks room is interesting. I think they're going to supplement that in the draft. Now, I did look up who's a free agent in the cornerback room, and it's not spectacular. Yeah. All you're going to get is a bunch of guys who are solid. I mean, you look at it, Carlton Davis, solid player. Charvarius Ward, very solid player. Byron Murphy's trash. Rasul Douglas could potentially make a return. Stephon Gilmore, he's old, but I mean, he's still had a pretty decent year with Minnesota. Maybe bring him in. But this is all hindrant on what people are looking for numbers-wise. Right. But I think if you signed a mid-talent, like another quarterback 2 guy, but who's been in the league, who's proven himself, and then you supplement that in the draft, that wouldn't be a bad idea. Because, again, lockdown corners are just tough to come by. So I don't think you're going to replace Jair right away. But again, I think it's Jair's time's up in Green Bay. So cornerbacks is going to be the trickiest part, in my opinion, because you have so much money invested in it and a guy who just doesn't want to be there.
Yeah.
So I think they'll probably draft a corner first. This is another thing. Like before we should have even gotten to this, it comes down on Brian Gutekunst. No more drafting projects round one. Like Quinn Walker looked to be a guy that can produce right away. Devontae Wyatt looked to be another project, but I guess when you're drafting so far back, potentially that's all that's left to you. Jordan Morgan, that was another project, and Lucas Van Ness is another project. Enough of drafting athletes that have good combine numbers and just drafting positions that have produced. What is that guy's name from Los Angeles? Avante, number 8. I think that I want to get that right. That dude is everywhere. Like he is just wreaking havoc all over the place. And in his senior year of college, he had 18 and a half sacks. Lucas Van Ness and Rashawn Gary's combined college senior years were 23 and a half. Like, again, you played against Rashawn Gary. You said that dude's going to be NFL ready. We've seen it, but it's not consistent, where Lucas Van Ness was literally a project. He had good combine numbers. He's a freak athlete for the size. They thought they could coach him up. Enough of, oh, this guy's a project. He has really good combine numbers. He's a great athlete. Let's coach him up, and then he could. No, enough of that. If a guy has good numbers in college, just do it. Like if it's a guy that's like, okay, this is almost a. I mean, some people don't pan out, right? But no more projects. Just take a chance on a guy that's producing already in college. Just go get him. We don't want projects anymore. You don't, especially in this 3-year window with Jordan Love and this team right now before you have to start paying guys. Go get somebody that can make an impact. So that's number one. No more projects. They draft guys that make impacts on day 2 and 3 more than they do on day 1. Like whatever you do on day 2 and 3, just do it in day 1. But so one, and you know what? We're gonna get to edge rusher. We talked about it last week. Max Crosby's out there. He's $25 million a year. What kind of package could you put together for a guy like that? A lot of people say first round pick. I know the Raiders are going to want a first round pick. If you could finagle asking if they would want a guy like Jair Alexander, now that doesn't help the Raiders because they want to get probably his contract off the books and free up some money down the road, start freeing up some cash and rebuilding the team. Bringing in Jair Alexander is not rebuilding a team because now you're just like saving only like $2.5 million because Jair, I think, is a little less than Crosby. But that's where cutting Jair, probably going to have to cut Jair and then trade. Do you give him a guy like Devontae or Dontavion Wicks? Maybe a Luke. Well, you don't need they don't need tight end, but somebody. Do you give him like a guy who's like, you know what? This guy is like going to be number 3 or 4. A lot of potential on tape. Is there a guy that you have that could do that on the roster just to give it a little sweetener so you give up less picks? I say a first-round player for Max Crosby is worth every penny, a first-round pick. But at the same time, you need guys, too. And I know how Green Bay doesn't like to give up picks. So that's where I'm just getting a little skeptical. So if you don't trade for Max Crosby, let's go to the free agent side of it. For free agents on edge rushers, again, a lot of good guys on there. You're looking at Josh Sweat, which is probably the best guy on there from Philadelphia. Philadelphia probably wants to keep him. Then you got old DeMarcus Lawrence, Chase Young, Khalil Mack, like again, old. Brandon Graham, 37 years old. There's not a lot there when you look at it. So it's really tough for the free agent for edge rusher. That's where maybe corner you go free agent and then draft you go edge. But if you look at edge in the draft, so far it doesn't look like there's going to be a lot at 23. That's where you'd have to trade up. But again, Green Bay doesn't like trading up that much. So it's going to be tricky for Green Bay to improve these guys. Now, I think you have good, solid players around those four spots of wide receiver, edge, and then you go to, I mean, again, T. Higgins is out there for wide receiver. We get to the wide receivers. So defensive edge is going to be tricky as well. Like, you have a really tricky time going with your edge and cornerbacks because it's like it's just tricky. I looked through it and it's like I don't know if any of these guys are going to be worth. They're going to still look for money. They're not. I mean, some of them you might get lucky on one of them and be like, hey, I just want to play for a winning team, like Khalil Mack. Maybe he's just like, you know what? I'm getting 33 years old. He only played 61% of the snaps last year for the Chargers. Maybe a guy bringing him in with a spot. Now, Green Bay's got good depth with Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, Braden. I think that kid Cox Jr. really good. JJ Enagbare. That's a solid group. Like, I don't think anybody would be mad with that group, but there's no star power. Maybe Khalil Mack is the okay. Running downs, you're not going to be out there. We're going to make sure you're out there for passing downs because that's what you do best with rush the quarterback. He still had 17 sacks 2 years ago. He only had 6 this past year. But again, he's 33. He's got to learn how to play with his age now. And I think minimizing snaps is going to be one of those keys to keep him fresh. They did that with Preston Smith. They did that with Julius Peppers. And it worked. They kind of them a little bit more. But you might have to sign an old guy. Like, if you really want to update, I know they want to be young, but if you want to get better, the potential is out there, but it's older potential, and then you got to finesse it a little bit. So I think cornerback and edge are going to be tricky. There's guys out there for trades, but I just don't know if that's going to be a thing. So then we flipped it to the wide receiver group. This is where the free agent, I think, is going to come. Because if you look at this, there's names out there. Stephon Diggs, he's coming off a knee injury, probably not going to happen. Keenan Allen already said he's going to play in LA or Chicago. And that leaves you with Chris Godwin, who is coming off an injury as well. I don't know how that's going to work with his injury, how that's going to be working. And then there's T. Higgins. That's going to cost you some money. Like, lots of money. Potentially all the monies you have. Is it going to be worth it? Sure. I think so. He's a freak athlete, and he's a really good wide receiver.
I think you muted yourself, brother.
Look at that, I did. Just flipping back. Wait, well, T. Higgins is going to cost all your money. Godwin with the injury, we don't know how long he'll be out. Maybe he'll be ready for training camp. The other person, we don't know what's going on with Devontae Adams. Is he going to want out if Aaron Rodgers retires? If Aaron Rodgers stays, he'll probably stay. So we'll see on that. DeAndre Hopkins is a free agent, but I feel like he's going to want to stay with Kansas City to ring chase. Is that Hollywood Brown I see down there? Marquise Brown? Or is that a different Brown? I'm not sure. Another guy who you played with, I don't know how you feel about this, KJ Osborne. I mean, you've seen the potential with him.
I didn't play with him. He was before me, but he's a good player.
Okay. Yeah, like that's a guy who you could throw in ACL injuries. The last time a big player had an ACL injury, it didn't go so hot. So we'll see how that goes. Not a lot of wide receivers in the draft either. I mean, maybe a day 2 pick, they make another pick at wide receiver. I think they got to go free agent. I mean, this is where go bold. I mean, they went bold with Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney. Go bold again. Go grab T. Higgins on a 3-year deal. Go grab if Chris Godwin can be back for Cam. Go for Chris Godwin. He'll be a cheaper option, especially off the injury. Amari Cooper's proven that he's still balling. I mean, maybe he'll want to stay in Buffalo. We don't know. If he wins the Super Bowl and helps them win the Super Bowl, he's really going to want money. So, but wide receiver is probably your biggest chance of a free agent coming in my opinion. And then offensive line, we just know how Green Bay operates. They always want as many offensive linemen as they could possibly get because you got to protect the house.
Yes, you
Josh
do.
Myers is a free agent. As I said last week, I have a feeling that they might tell Josh, what's your number? His number is going to be way too high to probably what they think he is. They're going to say, go ahead, go out, find that number. If you find that number, congrats, enjoy it, just like they did with John Runyon Jr. last year. If you don't, come back to us. We'll work it out. Like, we want you back because familiarity within the system is going to be all right. But center, I think they need to address in the draft. They'll address in the draft as well. They'll probably draft like a guard or some type of interior alignment and address that because Zach Tom's going to get paid. Rasheed Walker, again, was solid last year. I don't think you really need to worry about him. He's still under his rookie deal for another year. Other than that, you got to worry about fifth-year options for Quay Walker and Devontae Wyatt, which I think they'll pick up both those options, potentially. Again, Quay Walker hasn't played well. Maybe they'll decline it and be like, hey, let's just lock you in for a longer deal. But XYZ. Devontae Wyatt really hasn't proved anything, so maybe you could get him on a cheaper deal too. XYZ. So, but they're going to be in their fourth year next year. You have to decide on their fifth year before their fourth year happens. It's really weird with rookie first-year contracts for first-rounders. So Green Bay's got a pretty interesting offseason coming up here. The new league year technically doesn't start till March. So all this stuff will be happening come March. Obviously, you have a period of opening up, talking, and all that crap. So we're not really going to know what's going to happen until March because they can't really start talking to people. Now, obviously, I feel like they are talking to people before the new league year starts. I think they give them like 3 days before the tampering period.
Right.
You can yada, yada, yada. I wholeheartedly believe that something else has happened. They're talking to him way before then, like Kirk Cousins was with the Falcons, and Minnesota was all pissed. Yeah, all that shit. So it's going to be interesting. And obviously they're working on it right now. What are we going to do about Jair? If Matt LaFleur wants to do what he really wants to do on the defensive end, which is rush 4, play 4 rush 4, play 4 underneath and 3 over the top, you're going to need dudes up front. And you don't have dudes up front. So you don't have guys up front. You need a guy, capital G, capital U, capital Y, as I said last week. They don't have that. Got to go get it. And where is it? It's not the free agency, unfortunately. There's not a big name free agent pass rusher on board. There's a lot of solid ones, but you already have a bunch of solid guys. I wouldn't waste your money. Khalil Mack would probably be the guy I'd spend money on if it came down to it. But that's a guy that's like going to play only 70% of your snaps because he's old. You want to keep him fresh. If you're going to make him long, if you're going to plan on playing 18, 20 games for the season, you want to keep him fresh. In other news with Green Bay, they fired their defensive line coach. Obviously, Brian Gutekunst said that they weren't impressed by the development of the defensive line. Shocking, I know, because wow, did it not look good. So today they interviewed the defensive line coach for the Chicago Bears. I think his name is Craig Rogers. He has led some pretty good defensive lines, and he's had a lot of top 5 defensive lines so bringing that guy in, if they hire him, would be on paper pretty good, and we'll see what he can do with that defensive line. Jeff Hafley interviewed for the Jets position. Shocking, which I was shocked. I was like, really? This guy's gonna have 1 year in the NFL under his belt, and he's already getting head coaching. Okay. My only worry with Hafley leaving is who's gonna replace him, obviously, because I know the dream out there is Robert Saleh, but I don't know if Robert Saleh wants to come be a defensive coordinator in Green Bay. I know he probably wants to be a head coach somewhere. If he's, that was my only worry, but news just broke half an hour, 35, 40 minutes ago that he was going to be staying because the Jets are looking at other options. Wasn't so surprised about that one. It seems like if you're a coordinator living and breathing anywhere in the NFL, you're going to get an interview from any open job. The Bears have interviewed like 30 people, and Ben Johnson's going there. We'll see how that goes. On paper, it's good hire. Watch out for any trick plays that Ben Johnson decided to do. But as of right now, it's going to be a little dead until March. You're going to hear some things, read some things. But other than that, you're just going to wait till the Super Bowl's ending, and then you got 1 month until the new league year opens, and then shit's going to hit the fan. It's going to be fun like it was last year, where all of a sudden you got 2 vibrations on your phone, and you looked at it, and you saw Xavier McKinney and Josh Jacobs coming to Green Bay. And if Josh Jacobs holds up his end of the bargain, where he says, hey, I'm going to get people in here. Well, what people? Is it Max Crosby? Because that's tricky. He's not a free agent. If he was a free agent, I'd be like, oh, Max Crosby's coming to Green Bay easily. Not a free agent. It's going to take a lot of buttons to be pushed. So, yeah, I'm optimistic that Brian Gutekunst will be a little aggressive again with the $32 million free. Again, like $10 million of that goes to draft picks. And then maybe you re-sign some guys. But I think they'll have around 20-something. I mean, they can do deals like they did with Josh Jacobs this year. And I think they did it with Xavier McKinney this year. I think Josh Jacobs' first year here in Green Bay, he made like $1.5 million, but he got $13 million up front right away. So it's like, oh, I'm only playing for $1.5 million, but they gave me 13 extra on top of it, which doesn't count towards the books. So I feel like they're going to do something like that if they were to go sign like a T. Higgins or a Chris Godwin. Hey, we'll pay you like $2 million, but we'll give you your signing bonus up front of $20 million. I don't know. So there's deals to be had. And it looks like with Green Bay's flexibility, I think they're the 8th or 10th most money available for an NFL team right now, which something we're not used to because of the Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams deals and all that other crap that we've dealt with in years past. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be hopefully another fun offseason of some household names coming into Green Bay. And we'll, again, hopefully we'll get back to it. Everybody get healthy. But when it comes to Matt LaFleur, what do I want to see? I want to see less out of the gun. And I want to see more under center. He's established that Green Bay is a physical team. He loves running the football. He was doing that, and it's something that we haven't seen in Green Bay for a very long time. Because usually Green Bay was the people that were getting bullied. Now we're bullying people. It's kind of refreshing to see. But don't be so one-dimensional. Don't run out of the gun. Josh Jacobs is not out of the gun runner, even though he does it so well. Get back to what you did with if you saw what the Lions do under center, they run people out, they just run a deep in cut, and you got people just dashing over zones, stuff like that. It needs to be more under center. It can't. I know he wants to stay ahead of the sticks, which is always nice, but he needs weapons out there that can lighten up this box so Josh Jacobs can get running. But at the same time, once Josh Jacobs gets going, then they close the box and you throw it over the top. And that's all through a play action game, which is what the Shanahan offense is predicated on. He needs to do that more because, again, he got hounded at his press conference on play action. And he was a little confused by it because apparently he doesn't understand why the stats say certain amount of play actions. He's like, I'll have to look into it. Is a fake? What counts as a play action fake? So either way, he needs to be better as well as Jordan Love needs to play better. Again, I think maybe it's because he's not healthy. He had the groin, he had the knee, and then the last game, he had the elbow. Maybe he was beat up. And maybe that's where they're like, okay, we need to get our offensive line to be better because then we need to protect him. Maybe run the ball more like they did to protect Jordan Love. But he needs to be better. Matt LaFleur did say he needs to be more of a vocal leader. Again, it was second year starting. He was dealing with a lot of injuries, so maybe he wasn't so vocal because he was trying to take care of himself. He had more things to worry about. Not sure, but we're gonna have to see more in year 3. He still had a decent year 2. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, yeah, he threw a lot of interceptions, and he still threw 23, 28 touchdowns.
Yeah, somewhere around there.
It's not bad. I mean, we're the days of Aaron Rodgers throwing 45 touchdowns and 3 interceptions are over. It's not gonna happen. They need him to take more chances, but he needs to be better at taking chances. When I say taking chances, that doesn't mean throwing into triple coverage. Taking chances like what he did in the Eagles game, throwing to Dontavian Wicks. Like, that's a chance. Now, unfortunately, I thought that wasn't a bad throw. That's just Darius Slay doing what Darius Slay is paid to do. He's a top 10 corner in the league. And Dontavian Wicks is not good enough to beat Darius Slay, but in a game like that, you got to take chances. It's the playoffs. You can't play conservative. So keep letting him do that again. And I think everyone's going to take a look at themselves. Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney are going to step up and be leaders. Jordan Love has to step up and be leaders. Be aggressive in free agency. You have to hit home runs in this draft. Whatever you do, you have to hit home runs in this draft. Whether it be trading your first-round pick for a player or getting a player that is going to help you right now. No more projects. We're not in the project era anymore. We are in we need to win now era. So if you have to trade up a couple spots to go get the guy, go get him. Make sure it's 100%er. Now I know, again, the draft, sometimes people miss. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. But you need to be 9 out of 90% sure, 95% sure that this player is going to hit now. Not we're going to draft this guy in 2 years. We hope to him be really good. No. We're going to draft him because he's good now. Like he does everything. 90% of what he does is good now. We'll work on the other 10% throughout the season. Good now. So that's what the Packers have to do this offseason. It's harder than a lot of people think. Again, because you got to sign free agents, but it's not like Madden where you just go, hey, you want this much? Good. See you there. Obviously they got to look at contracts. They got to look at signing bonuses, everything like that. So I think free agent, you got to go after wide receiver. You figure it out with your cornerback room. And then edge rusher is probably going to be the trickiest, in my opinion, because to get better at that position, there's not a lot of free agents out there who are going to make a big splash. That would have to become through a trade. Cornerback room, I think you can live with what you have now. If Jair goes, you got to go get a vet of some caliber. Don't go. You can't live with, okay, we're going to have Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine. Let's say they re-sign Corey Ballantyne, and then we're going to draft a free agent, and then we're going to draft a kid, a corner, and we'll see what happens. No, that's going to be bad. It's going to be very, very bad. It's just not going to work. So they need to go get a vet presence if Jair Alexander does, in fact, not come back. But it's going to be tricky. I think it's going to be really fun. It's going to be exciting. Hopefully they can make a big name splash in some position, whether it be edge rusher or wide receiver. But they're close. But getting over that hump to get more players is the hardest part.
No, it is long-winded for the Packers kind of summary there, but obviously there was a lot of great things that you went ahead and pointed out. What is the one thing that you want to see? That's a crazy question to ask, even though you went ahead and gave a great description. What is one thing for you where you look at it moving like, damn, okay, we're doing something right now, and I get it, and I like that.
It'd be trading for Max Crosby. Now, signing a free agent, they sign T. Higgins. That's a damn. We're going at it now. Like, we're not fucking around. If they get like a Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, I'd be like, you know what? That's really good. I really like that. If they get, but T. Higgins and trading for Max Crosby is like they are pushing their chips in the middle.
Yep.
Where they're not fucking around. T. Higgins is more of a, I'm going to re-raise you most of my pot. That would also be a holy shit. He's not fucking around. But if they sign like Khalil Mack, Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, I'd be like, you know what? I think those are really good signings too. Question is, do you sign more guys like Khalil Mack, Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin, or do you just push all in for a Max Crosby or T. Higgins? Do you want more? Do you want more quantity of solid NFL veteran players, or do you want to push all in for that one guy? I think it's kind of a horse apiece because, again, like Amari Cooper, Chris Godwin have proven they can do things. Khalil Mack has proven, but he's older. I think Max Crosby and T. Higgins put you over the bar. But at the same time, the way that Green Bay talks is like if you get more players, it's harder to guard. Now, you're not going to get T. Higgins and Max Crosby. That's just silly. That's just not happening. It'd be fun. If they had $50, $70 million, sure. They're going to get both. They're going to try to get both. They have room for one player. The question is, do they try to sign a guy like Amari Cooper or Chris Godwin and then like a Khalil Mack? Or do they just get one or the other? I'm kind of leaning towards maybe they'll do the get more guys that help out both sides of the ball. You still have money to tinker with. I just don't see them pushing all in because I feel like now they're going to not want to be in cap hell again because that was rough. Like being in cap hell sucked. So I think they're going to do a cheaper option, which is going to piss some people off. But if you do it, you have to go get names. Like Chris Godwin and Amari Cooper are names, and so is Khalil Mack. People are going to be like, well, why didn't they get Max Crosby? It just wasn't in the cards. You kept your draft picks. If you cut Jay Alexander, same thing. So it's an interesting question. Which quantity of good players or quality of one superstar?
So you're thinking basically you want to push all in, basically is what I'm grasping from that.
I want them. I think they need to go get more. I think you have. I think you have plenty. Like Dontavian. Like let's talk the wide receiver room. If you went and got Amari Cooper or Chris Godwin, it would help. Is that a bona fide number one? Like, are people going to double cover Amari Cooper or Chris Godwin? I don't think so. I think they're going to draw a little bit more attention, which helps. But if you go get T. Higgins, they're going to be like, number 5, we have to do something about him. You cannot let him, because there's no one on in Green Bay's wide receiver room right now that's like, do not let him do this. Christian Watson was the only guy that was like, do not let him go by you. Like, make sure you keep him in front. That was about it. It worked. It opened other things up, but that was the only guy, and he's not going to be around for majority of the next season. So you need to go get somebody that can circle. Go get him. Like, do not let him do this. Do not let him get loose. T. Higgins is like that, and then on the flip side, people did circle Rashawn Gary at the beginning of the season, but then they were like, you know what? I think we can just leave him alone. I think we can go one-on-one because he only had 7.5 sacks. So he wasn't winning one-on-ones. So, but if you put 98 there, they're going to be like, that's a game record. If you let him get loose, if he gets going, we are going to have a long fucking day. And here's their game plan. They're going to crinkle it up into a ball of paper and just throw it behind him and go, we're we're flying by the seat of our pants now because this guy just is wrecking our game plan. So those two guys on both sides of the ball, you have to really weigh which one do you want. Do you want them to be a game wrecker on defense, or do you want the guy that gets a lot of attention and open things up on offense?
Defense.
From what? Yeah. Because from what I saw, like they only held the Eagles to 15 points. I mean, the Eagles are struggling a little bit right now, but you just never know when they're going to wake up and all of a sudden be the best offense in football because they have that potential. They have the dudes to do that. I think it's more fun to go get the wide receiver. People love shiny things. But Max Crosby, you know how much pressure it takes off an offense if you go, wow, our defense is so good. If we go score 17 points, we're going to win. We don't even need to go score 24 to 28 points anymore. We can score 17 to 21 points, and our defense is going to hold them to 7. Like, I think you go get Crosby, but that's the trickiest and the toughest person to go get because he's under contract, and you got to give up picks, potentially multiple picks, or guys that you already have. So I think 98 would probably fits this system better than I think T. Higgins would fit the other system. But if Devontae Adams comes back, go get Devontae and Crosby because Devontae is getting up there to the point where you don't really even need to give him a lot of money. He already got his money. Now he just wants to put a ring on his finger to put the cherry on top. So it's going to be interesting. So we got a couple months yet. Guys are still wondering if they're retired. T. Higgins could get franchise tagged again, which if they franchise tag him again, he may not play all season. Like he played through the franchise tag last year, which got him like $22 million, I think, which is a good chunk of change. But if they franchise tag him again, he is going to be pissed. And I could see him sitting out the entire season like the pass rusher Hassan Reddick did for the Jets. Like he's not going to be happy if you franchise tag him again. So I think Crosby is going to do a lot for your defense because then Rashawn Gary's getting one-on-one all the time. And if he gets one-on-ones all the time and he figures it out, and same with Devontae Wyatt, because Devontae Wyatt's a really good pass rushing defensive tackle. And if Kenny Clark got double teamed inside a lot. If he gets one-on-ones, oh my God. So Max Crosby just flips the script on all your pass rushers and literally says, guys, we are bringing in him. If you can't do anything with him lined up there, then we're going to have to start reevaluating y'all. So T. Higgins, I think they're going to go cheaper on the wide receiver if they don't get Crosby. Or if they get Crosby, they're going to go cheaper on the wide receiver. But if they don't get Crosby, I think you might see a little bit of a splash in wide receiver room. They got to try something. They said they're going to, if there's a player out there they want, they're going to try to go get him, which is all you want to hear. Try how hard? I don't know. But I think it's Max Crosby, but that's the trickiest one.
No,
but
absolutely.
Again, I think they're going to try to figure out the Jair Alexander situation first.
Yeah, no, they can get that squared away, and we'll just have to see.
Yes, sir.
And that's all we can do. Let's go through this basketball real quick here. We got the Milwaukee Bucks. They went ahead and beat the 76ers 123 to 109. They are fourth right now in the Eastern Conference. They have the Pelicans, the Heat this week, and then they have the Clippers on the weekend. Badger basketball.
That's a schedule. That's a schedule that they can go 3-0 on, and next thing you know, then they're creeping up on that 3 seed of the Knicks. I watched the highlights of that game on Sunday. Middleton, Giannis, and Dame are starting to gel.
Yep.
And it was like, okay, now, again, deadline's coming, All-Star break's coming. Are they going to make moves? Like, do they like what they see right now? Go, you know what, I don't think we don't have to make a move, or do they say, you know what, we like what we see, but if we just had this, I swear to Jesus, if they trade for Jimmy Butler, I'm going to be pissed. Do not
Yeah.
trade for that man. Do not trade for that man. He is a locker room cancer. He'll be unhappy in 2 years. He's going to want out. He's too expensive. If you're going to trade for somebody, trade for a really good sixth man. I think that's all they really could use is just some depth. It's about it. I mean, again, they look like they're playing really good basketball right now through what I see. But now they need to start going to beat the good teams. They haven't beat any really good teams though. Like we're getting into like they're the Green Bay Packers. Any team over 500 / any team that's ranked higher than them, they're not beating. They haven't beat the Celtics in a little while. They haven't beat the Knicks yet. So they need to start beating some of these better teams and being competitive with these better teams. But other than that, they're winning the games against teams that are about the same as them or lower than them, which is something you would like to see. You want to see. And now they're in the 4th seed, and you and I projected that they're going to be 5 or 6. So, hey, and their first round opponent, I think, would be the Indiana Pacers. And the Pacers are trash. They did all that talking last year in the postseason. Well, you didn't face Giannis or Dame together, and y'all just want to act like you somebody. Get out of here, bro. So
Absolutely, we're definitely going to go. Yeah,
I want that series again because if Dame and Giannis and Chris Middleton are healthy, that's going to be a sweep. They're going to be so pissed off that I'm calling a sweep on that one.
we shall see. We got a long time before that.
Yes.
But they are playing very well. Bucks, like I said, the games that are playing this week and weekend, tune into them because we're playing well. Wisconsin Badger basketball, 4th in the Big Ten. They're going ahead and playing the UCLA Bruins. Went ahead and beat USC. Then they have Nebraska on Sunday. Marquette, they went ahead. They're second right now in the Big East. They'll go ahead and face Seton Hall this week, and then Friday they'll face Villanova. And then moving on from the good basketball, heading over to the Brewers, one of our legends, Bob Cooter, went ahead and passed. It's sad to hear. A wonderful life. Born in January 1934, passed away obviously January 16th, which is crazy. That is a 10-day span with when he was born. Unreal human being for the state of Wisconsin, for the state of the city of Milwaukee, for the Brewers. I remember watching him, listening to him when I was younger.
Oh my God, bro!
You are like probably one of the most. I'm a diehard fan of obviously everyone from Wisconsin when it comes to sports teams. But I mean, we both grew up on listening to him on the radio for just years. So talk to me a little bit about Bob Cooter and kind of what he did for you,
bro. Like he's the guy that lived a life you and I just wish we could live.
Absolutely.
He was, so a lot of people I know a couple people that have met him, but all the people who worked with him, played, the players that played around him, said, like, if you didn't know Bob Cooter, lie because what you heard on the radio was Bob Cooter. You know him. He's not any different up in the booth than he is downstairs. So people, like, he is one of the funniest human beings, and one of the best personalities that TV and sports has ever seen. I mean, his Miller Lite commercials back in the 80s, a lot of them popped up. Holy shit, I was bust. My belly hurt. Because, I mean, I didn't really see any of them.
Right.
Him being a WWE Hall of Famer with his work in WrestleMania. I mean, if you looked around, like, how many people gave their condolences, how many people he, like, touched in his life, it is unreal. Like, non-sport people who don't care for sports use his mannerisms because he was in Major League. Do you know how legendary you have to be to touch somebody who doesn't really care about the game he's most involved with and most loved? It's unbelievable. It was an inevitable day that we wish never came, but unfortunately it did. And someone wrote about it and said it best. Bob Cooter was the sound of Wisconsin summer.
Absolutely.
Like, he was. You went anywhere, somebody had a radio on, and you could just hear Uke. And I could sit there and listen to him talk. If there is a bad game. Like Pat Hughes said this, and Pat Hughes is the Cubs radio announcer who worked with you back in the 90s, I believe. Said the way where he thrived was he was great in like a 2-1 ball game, a really close ball game. He thrived in games that were like 11-0 because he talked. The guy had stories from like a laundry list long that he never ran out of, and it was just sitting there entertaining. He's not even talking about what's going on in the. I mean, he'll let you know what's going on in the game, but you go there for the stories in a blowout. You go, okay, what's you talking about today? And times I am just dying laughing over this broadcast. And he did something that you never if you took sports journalism, which I never did, but from what I hear in a lot of sports journalism, they don't like dead air. Like you don't want to be quiet, you don't want to say nothing and lose the audience. Bob Uecker was somebody who predicated on dead air because he wanted that dead air. You could hear the vendors calling out if you wanted a beer, peanuts, what have you. You could hear the dull roar of the crowd. You could hear the on-deck batter slam his bat and the weight coming off of it. You heard the sounds of the ballpark like as if you were really there. Like he was just a mastermind at what he did, and he's the only radio announcer that I think in the MLB that had his own locker in the clubhouse. 90 years old, he had his own locker. He's not even a player. He loved being around the players, the Brewers. Touched everybody that came through the Milwaukee Brewers organization. Touched everybody who talked about or who listened to him. We have grandparents that grew up listening to him.
Yep.
So I am so thankful that we got to see that personality. It was a very sad day when he came out. So heroes are remembered and legends never die. And Bob Uecker, that voice is never dying, and that personality you can't keep that personality down. He is just a legend.
Absolutely. Can't agree with you more. Hey, with that, we do got the season coming up in regards to spring training camp.
In a month.
February 22nd, we got the
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati Reds, so we'll keep our eye on that. And with that, with the good Wisconsin area that we so love and dear, let's go ahead and get into these Bob Cooter picks. Obviously, we all have seen what happened in the divisional rounds. The Ravens went ahead and lost the Bills 27-25. The Eagles went ahead and beat the Rams 28-22. The Commanders went ahead and beat the Lions 45-31. And the Chiefs went ahead and beat the Texans 23-14. So with that being said, our NFC championship game is between the Commanders and the Eagles. As I'm seeing right now on USA Today, the Eagles are getting -6.
Hammering. And I'm picking them winning. I might throw money line on this too. Hammering the Washington Commanders. That team is red hot. They are the team that everyone's saying, please stop Jaden Daniels.
Yeah.
Please stop what they're doing. That offense played on 3 for 4 on fourth downs on Saturday night. That team is fearless. They're young. They don't give a shit. They're playing with house money right now. They're going to go into Philadelphia. They went into Philadelphia and beat them not 3-4 weeks ago. They are a team that doesn't fear anybody. They don't know what they are. They're just having a ball, playing football, and 6 points. I'm picking them money line. I'm picking them to win this game outright. I think they're going to go with Philadelphia's offense is still just not. If they can stop Saquon Barkley, I think they win this football game. I just don't. Jalen Hurts just ain't doing it for me. He is just having such lackluster games. It's going to come back and bite him in the ass. The athleticism of Jaden Daniels is just amazing. Scary Terry playing really well. Austin Eckler looked like this Austin Eckler, which is huge for them if he can tap into a little bit time and time again of the old Austin Eckler. This team is scary hot right now because they are just loose. They're playing with house money. They have no idea what they are in the sense of how good they are. They're just playing football. They're a young team enjoying it. So I'm picking the number as well, but I might play. I might feel frisky and throw some money on the money line on this because I think they're going to win this football game.
I love that. That game's going to be at 2 p.m. Central Time. Eastern Time, that'll be at 3 p.m. So that's definitely going to be a good one to pop off the Sunday. For the first game, and then the second game, we got the Bills versus the Chiefs. Chiefs are getting -2.
Please, with
For the love of
everything,
God, I don't
everything
want
that
the
is fucking holy. That was
Chiefs.
that Houston Kansas City game was by far one of the dumbest and most frustrating games to watch on how the NFL has a golden goose and they give Patrick Mahomes any little thing he fucking whines about. It is just unfucking real. And it is so frustrating, and this is why nobody wants Kansas City. Nobody likes Kansas City. So please, to anything that is holy, just Josh Allen has Lamar Jackson has a Josh Allen problem. He can't beat Josh Allen, nor really can he beat Patrick Mahomes. Josh Allen has a Patrick Mahomes problem. Can he rip that monkey off his back on Sunday? I don't know. They're going into Arrowhead. Travis Kelce played a pretty good game for Kansas City. DeAndre Hopkins, I don't think was really that big of a factor. You just can't. I mean, Houston said it best. They knew they were going in there, and it was everybody against them, and they meant everybody. The refs, too. The Bills got to know that they're up against the referee crew as well, and they just can't make mistakes. I know. I understand. You have said this more times than anybody, and I agree with it. If Patrick Mahomes is running on the sideline, crack him. Frack his ass. Take the 15 yards. You can't do that in this game. Like, you got to make sure you just block him off. Don't let him do that tiptoe thing down the sideline. If he's running, you just have to figure out a way to get him into your slide. You have to do something so unconventional because you know the refs are just holding their flags when he's running the football, ready to just throw anything. You got to make sure that you play smarter than that. And the Chiefs are so good. If you make those mistakes, they're gonna make you pay. Like don't get me wrong, they don't impress me that much. They do well is if you give them 15 extra yards or you give them a 5-yard holding penalty on third down, they're gonna capitalize and they're gonna make you pay. So they have to play smart. They have to get after Patrick Mahomes. They have to stop Travis Kelce. Like, Travis Kelce had a pretty big game on Saturday. So please, everything that's fucking holy, don't let it be a Eagles and Chiefs Super Bowl. One of the two teams has to lose. America wants Buffalo, Washington. Please, NFL, just for once in our great lives, just say, you know what? Let's just do it. So, yeah, I still picking Buffalo because I just don't want to pick Kansas City. Even though it might be a smart thing to pick Kansas City because everything is always working for them and nobody's ever working against them. So I'm gonna pick Buffalo plus the 2. I'm going dog for this weekend because it's just, damn it. Can Josh Allen just play? If he's gonna win MVP, I don't think he should throw 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. Can he throw 400 yards and 4 touchdowns? Just beat the ever-loving piss out of these guys in their home stadium. Just that's what you have to do. You have to beat Kansas City so bad to the point where the refs can't get involved. You got to take it in your own hands. So Josh Allen has to play like he is. That offense is looking really damn good with James Cook running very well, Amari Cooper being an outlet, Keon Coleman playing really well. Everybody. And then that defense has to get after Patrick Mahomes. You know for a fact, going into this game, Kansas City on third down is going to blitz the ever-loving hell out of Josh Allen. Out of everybody. They are the team that blitzes the most in the NFL. 41% of the time, I think I saw. Have your man beaters. Have a play where okay, it's going to be. They're going to bring pressure. What play can we run if they run cover 0, and where we could just run a slant and it's going to be 10 yards. You got to play smart. You know what they're going to do. You've played each other 7 times in the past 7 years, it seems like, anyway. So can Josh Allen get over the hump? I fucking hope so, because I'm just sick of this. I am so sick and tired of this. So please, Buffalo, save us from everything. And then nobody likes Philadelphia. Washington Commanders, I hope they put up another 45. I would laugh my ever-loving ass off. So going dog. I'm hoping for America's Super Bowl, which is Washington versus Buffalo. Where is the Super Bowl this year?
It is in New Orleans.
It's in the Big Easy. So I'm hoping, with everything that I'm hoping for, that we get a America's Super Bowl, because if you got Buffalo versus Washington, Super Bowl is going to dominate viewers anyway. It always does. Everybody loves watching the Super Bowl. If my team's not in it, I love betting aspects of it. Tails never fails. Always bet on tails. And always bet purple for the Gatorade color. So purple Gatorade cover in the Big Easy. Let's just hope for America's Super Bowl, Washington versus Buffalo, because America, that's what everybody wants. If it's Philadelphia and Kansas City, I'm going to hate watch that with everything I have, and I'm just going to be there for the commercials and the movie trailers, and then to see if it's bet the over on the national anthem. Always bet the over on the national anthem, although they took it away last year. I was really pissed off about that. Tails never fails. Always bet purple for the Gatorade, even though I've never won it. And pick your Super Bowl MVP. Who's going to be a Super Bowl MVP from each team? Out of the 4 teams, who's going to be your Super Bowl MVP? Right now. Put you on the spot.
Me?
Yeah. Out of all 4 teams, who's winning Super Bowl MVP?
Well, this is money. House money? I'm putting Patrick Mahomes.
So, Kansas City got Patrick Mahomes. Who's winning it for Buffalo? It's pretty easy on that one, too.
Oh, yeah. Josh Allen.
And then Washington.
I will put, obviously, Jaden Daniels. And then for the Philadelphia, Saquon Barkley.
So I'm in agreement with you, but I think if it's Washington, I think it's Scary Terry. You always got to look at Scary Terry. He might have a big game. This just makes me sick thinking about it. Kansas City, it's obviously going to be Mahomes, but it could be Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
Or Chris Jones. Chris Jones wreaks havoc.
That too.
Buffalo, it's got to be they're going to give Josh Allen. And then same with Washington. Or Washington is going to be Jaden Daniels. Philadelphia, it's going to be no one but Saquon, unless for some reason they just abandon the run and Jalen Hurts throws for 300-something yards. So, but that's who I would put too. Like, I think you and I, for number ones, are going to be. It's always the quarterback, but for Philadelphia's sake, it's Saquon Barkley. So we'll get into that next in 2 weeks. I don't know if we're recording next week. We'll have a discussion about that, but we will be talking Super Bowl week and after Super Bowl week, because we got some Bob Cooter's picks on Super Bowl week, man. Is always going to be fun.
Oh, no, we're definitely going to go ahead and...
First commercial, it's always going to be Pepsi. Throw it on Pepsi. Doritos, they're going to have a lot. What's the first song for Kendrick Lamar? We're going to get into it next week. It's going to be great. I'm going to have a laundry list of prop bets.
So everyone bring that piece of paper and pen, because we're going to be hammering some good bets
for you next week. Always take the other.
No, absolutely. But with that, my good people, you guys have a wonderful week, a wonderful weekend. Got a lot of great football on again. We're getting down to the wire. The NFL season's coming to a close. So enjoy this time, man. But with that, Jimmer, it's a pleasure. Everyone, we will see you next week. Peace out.
Stay warm.